Hi, it's Kim and I'm cooking at Villaggios today. And actually today I'm going to show you how we prepare our filling for our cannolis. Cannoli is a classic Italian dessert. It's perfect after a heavy meal because it's just cream, ricotta, and a little bit of powdered sugar and vanilla for flavor. And then you can toss in chocolate chips. We also put a little bit of cocoa in one of our cannoli fillings as well with brandied cherry because of course we're in Door County. You'll see people use nuts, dried fruits in their cannoli. Go ahead and dress it up and do whatever you feel like. But it's a light dessert, just basically a whipped cream with ricotta, which is a nice light cheese, an Italian cheese. Looks like cottage cheese, but it's a lot lighter than a cottage cheese. It has a better texture. So all you're going to need is a Robocoup, which you have at home. This is my industrial strength Robocoup at my restaurant, but you can use a blender with an S-blade. An S-blade is one of these. They're very sharp, so be careful with it. And remember that whipped cream, real heavy whipped cream, which we're going to be using, takes seconds to thicken. So we're going to stay right here when we're doing this process. So for our ricotta batter, it's a cup of cream, heavy cream. You don't want to use 2% or skim. This is something that you have to use heavy whipping cream. You can buy this at your grocery. You can get it in a small container, which would be a 1-cupper, so you could just make one batch. So we've got 1 cup of our cream. We're going to use 1 cup of ricotta. And again, I've got the big old, half a gallon restaurant size, which you are not going to need for your at home. You can just buy this in a little sour cream container. I'm going to grab a knife. It has a nice little plastic top to make sure that it's not contaminated. This is one of my favorite things after our meal. We also make homemade tiramisu here, and it's not a light and fluffy tiramisu. We make a traditional custard tiramisu, which a lot of people love here at Villaggios. So we got a cup of heavy cream, a cup of ricotta, and we'll leave the lid off, and we're going to go ahead and put a cup of powdered sugar in here. But the powdered sugar, actually, I'm going to do that while it's going around and around because you don't want it to clump. So once I got this safely on here, it's going to make some noise. We're going to start this, and I'm going to keep my my hand over it so this doesn't splash up at me. You could sift your powdered sugar, but if you have a Robocoup, you shouldn't have to do that. And we're slowly going to add our powdered sugar. Because if you put it all in at once, you'll have a big old dust cloud, and you'll be covered in white. And again, this is something you can do right in front of your guests. This is it. It's as easy as pie. Well, I don't know if pie is easy. This is pretty easy. Then I'm going to put in my teaspoon of vanilla for flavor, and I'm just going to watch it. I'm going to have Kathy stop filming so she can come and see how it's thickening up. Alright, so Kathy, I'm having Kathy move her angle so she can see with just that 30 seconds how thick this got. You guys can see that. So I'm just going to move it around with my spatula because once you go past this stage, it goes back to a milk and then you can't use it as a thick cream. So I'm just going to move this around a bit, like I said, with my spatula, and I'm going to let it run for not even 10-15 seconds here, and we'll have the finishing product. So you saw how thick it was when we put you right over the top of the blender. So like I said, I'm going to let this blend just a little bit more now that I moved it around. And again, you never want to walk away from this because once it goes past the thickening stage, it goes right back down to milk, and you'll never get it to thicken up again. Alright, looks beautiful. So I'm going to take my blade out of here, and remember this S blade is very, very sharp. Don't let it fool you. It's very sharp. So I'm just going to use my spatula and put this in a safe place. And now I'm just going to add my chocolate chips. You can add as much as you want. I like about, I don't know, a half a cup to a cup. Chocolate chips. This is a traditional flavor if you're an Italian, full bread. But like I said, with at Villaggios, I'm not going to demonstrate it today, but right with this mix, you could have put in about 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and that would turn this into a nice chocolate batter. So I've got everything mixed together. Again, you don't want to put your chocolate chips in there in your Robocoup, otherwise it's going to be tiny pieces. I like to feel the texture. I'm just going to cut off the end of a Ziploc bag, and then I'm going to stuff it with my filling, and that's how we're going to fill our cannolis. At Villaggios, we do not deep fry any food that we make here, so I do not make my own cannolis. You can go to an Italian bakery and they will gladly sell you cannolis. So you can go to any of your Italian bakeries and ask them for cannoli shells, and they're going to look like this. I do have an Italian customer though that I did go to her house and we made cannolis one day, and how they made them was on broomsticks. because it's the perfect hole for broomsticks, and that's how her mother, 50 years ago showed her how to make them at home using just oil on the oven, on the stovetop. So, but for our sake, like I said, I just buy these from an Italian bakery and I stuff them myself. They're excellent. You can smell a little bit of that cinnamon flavor in them, and that's why I don't put any cinnamon or nutmeg in this batter. Some batters do have that, but again, I just like the cream, the sugar, and the ricotta. So you're just going to hold this to the end and fill it. Stick it in there, like that. And again, here at Villaggios, we would give you a vanilla, and then I would just turn this into a chocolate one with the cocoa powder. But again, for today's sakes, I'm just making a traditional cannoli. Just like that. And like I said, it's not a heavy dessert. It just gives you enough chocolate, and with a cup of espresso would be fantastic. And I'm going to step back here, Kathy, to get my dried cherries. Right here. And again, I would put this on my chocolate one if I was doing this for Villaggios. But cherry on vanilla is fantastic as well. And then, of course, your traditional pistachio. I don't like to grind them up. I like people to get the whole pistachio so they see what they're getting here. And then you have a quick and easy dessert. There's no reason why you couldn't bring your whole dinner party over to your roboku at the end of the meal. You saw it took less than a minute to basically whip that up and then give everybody a bake. You all have Ziploc bags at home. Cut the edge off and just have everybody fill their cannoli, and then they can mix and match. They can put more chocolate chips on the side. You can bring whipped cream, ice cream, strawberries. Fresh fruit is great with ricotta as well. So just go ahead and play with it, be creative, and have a little dessert cannoli party at your next dinner.